Georgina Baillie is the person who is at the centre of the scandal with Andrew Sachs. Georgina Baillie is Andrew Sacks's granddaughter. Andrew Sachs played Manuel in Fawlty Towers. He had a long history as an actor. Manuel was just one of the many parts he played, but Manuel was the part, I suppose, that made him famous. And Georgina was exposed on mainstream media, on the BBC, on a programme which I said was live. It wasn't live, it was pre-recorded, and then the BBC, in their wisdom, thought that they should broadcast this filth. She says it's uncomfortable. Let's listen to what she has to say first.
Look, Andrew Sachs, I've got respect for you and your lineage and progeny. Never let that be questioned.
Don't hint.
I wasn't hinting. Why did that come across as a hint?
Because you know what you're
That
talking
wasn't
about.
a hint. Now, when you were doing...
It's a granddaughter!
Andrew Sachs, I did not do nothing with Georgina. Oh, no, I've revealed I know her name. Oh, no, it's a disaster.
Well, the BBC received more than 40,000 complaints. Radio 2's controller quit over the scandal and Brown was fired. I'm joined in the studio now by Andrew Sachs' granddaughter, Georgina Baillie. Georgina, I can see you almost recoiling in horror listening to that again. Because it was, I remember listening to that and thinking, A, I thought it was disgusting, and B, I couldn't believe that it had been edited and put out. Yeah. It wasn't live. This had been taped and then put out by the BBC.
Exactly.
What was it like for you to be caught in that storm?
Well, it wasn't pleasant. I was very young at the time. I was 23 years old when the story broke, and it was a very unnerving time because not only have my grandparents heard about what I've been up to sexually, which anybody would recoil
Horrible,
at,
yeah.
but then it's all the boys will be boys attitude and like, oh, isn't it funny? She's a slut anyway, so like, who cares? So that was their only line of defense, is to sort of slut shame me, basically.
Obviously, their behaviour was appalling, and everyone agreed with that. How did Russell treat you when you were actually in a relationship?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't consider me and Russell having been in a relationship. Right. We had like a sort of friends with benefits type situation, which was fine in my early 20s. And he was always very nice to me. Like it was very clear what the parameters of the relationship were. And that was mutually agreed upon, and never did anything untoward happen.
And he later, right, and obviously that came, and that was shocking. But
and yet there's redemption here, because and Russell Brand then paid for her to have to go to rehab to deal with her own issues. And as somebody who's been through all that, you can imagine, issues occur. And I think she's very grateful to Russell, but she also sees Russell as being in this sort of two-stage process. There's a pre-Russell and there's a post-Russell. I would say there's many more than that, but we still have to account for our misdoings, our misdeeds, and whether or not that's simply an apology or a de-branding, a de-platforming, or whether that's something that involves the police is another matter. Now, I think there's a big distinction between de-platforming and a criminal investigation. I think the de-platforming is part of a process where we have simply decided Russell Brand is somebody that we don't want in our lives, on television, on social media, on these forums. And I think there's a good reason for that. I don't think he's a role model who we should be putting out there.
A few years later, he did actually help pay for you to go through rehab.
Yes, exactly. So I was struggling with addiction for about 10, 15 years, and I was finding it very hard to get clean and sober. So one of my mutual friends between me and Russell called him up and said, George, you need some help. And so he sent me to rehab, and I was physically separated from my drug of choice, and I got some therapy, and I think that had a big part to play in my recovery journey. And he looked me in the eyes and he made his amends to me, which is what we do in recovery. We have to make amends to people.
What did he say to you?
He just acknowledged that it was a private relationship and it shouldn't have been made public, and that at the time he had 2 daughters. And I think that it really made him grow and change. And I felt it was genuine. I felt that he was sorry.
So we cut forward, this was 2018, so we cut forward 5 years. Now he's all over the front pages of every paper as an alleged rapist and sexual abuser. What was your reaction when you first heard about this?
So initially, first of all, I have been a survivor of sexual abuse, okay? And I will always believe victims, because why wouldn't you?
Would you always believe accusers?
Accusers, it depends. I wasn't in the room, you know? We weren't in the room. We don't know what happened there. But my initial thought was, oh my God, I'm glad I'm not Russell, because it's behavior that he was doing when he wasn't well. So when you're an addict, you can cross addict. So if you're not working a program, he explained this to me when he made his amends, you can be off booze and drugs, but if you're not working a program, you can be acting out on a sex addiction or a food addiction. And he wasn't working a program, and as an addict in recovery, I know that he wasn't well. So I have to.
But that doesn't justify rape and sexual assault.
It does not.
If indeed that is what he did. I mean, I've only read what I've read. I've seen the Dispatch's program. They are disturbing allegations, but they are allegations. Do you recognise the person described in these reports?
No, I don't. But I'm not saying that they're lies, because, you know, it was a long time ago. We all, and I think they should be believed, and get some help, because part of the recovery program is you must make amends for these things. And that's what he did to me, and hopefully he'll do the same for the others.
But you're presuming he's guilty?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that I'm taking it in with a pinch of salt, maybe, for want of a better word.
Would it not be better now if this becomes a police investigation to try and determine whether these allegations are in fact,
of course,
legally sound?
Of course, yeah.
Have you spoken to Russell about any of this?
No, I haven't.
Do you want to call him? Do you feel that way, or do you want to keep out of it?
To be honest, you know, all I've got is my own truth, and yeah, I don't know what I would say to him. Really.
I mean, it's an odd journey you've been with him. He sort of ruined. Well, you had a nice time with him, then he sort of ruined your life for a bit. Then he saved your life potentially by helping you with the rehab. It's been quite a journey between the two of you.
Yeah, it's been.
What are your feelings towards him today?
Well, I feel like he was a different person during those times. He was young and stupid, and as was I. And things would have been done differently now, I think. Slut shaming was totally fine back then. And so I was an easy target. But sorry, what was the question?
Well, just what your thoughts towards him are right now.
I want him to continue on his path of recovery, and when he makes a mistake, make an amends. That's what we do.
At the moment, he's categorically denied these allegations.
I hear that. Yeah.
But when you read the reports, you think there may be merit to what these girls are saying, these women are saying?
I, from my own personal experience, do not see Russell as a rapist. However, a lot of the evidence is very compelling. So one has to keep an open mind.
What are you doing now with your life?
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
So I'm an artist. I paint mainly. And I do big commissions for people. And I also am an actress, and I had the lead role in a play 2 years ago. And also I have a little TV series called Fanny Business, in which I play a 50s housewife who's a bit insane.
And you, I hope you don't mind me saying, you said you've been clean now for a number of years.
I've been clean and sober for three and a half years. I'll be turning 4 on February 16th.
So you're in a good place?
I would say so.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that, because I think what you went through in that Sachs Gate scandal was
it was
horrific.
A bit rubbish. Yeah.
I thought it was just a terrible way to treat a young woman. Really was, and very unacceptable. So I'm glad to see you doing well, and best of luck to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
I think he's a person who has gone on a journey, and I think Looking into it over the last few days, I think the Russell Brand from the past is not the Russell Brand of today, blah, blah, blah. I also think he's an intelligent and thoughtful individual. I think he was then, I think he is now. And I think for somebody who has an inner life, and he certainly does, what's happening must now be an horrific experience. But I think there's a big difference between, is this somebody whose reputation suggests should not be platformed? There's a big difference between that and is this a person who is involved in a criminal case. At the moment, no criminal case has been brought. The police have not arrested him. He is innocent until proven guilty. That is a separate issue. And it's very much part of the tribalism that to fuse these two debates. And I think that's a mistake. And I think it's perfectly reasonable for television, radio, social media to have this debate about whether or not Russell Brand is somebody who should be given a platform. And I also don't think this is part of cancel culture. Cancel culture is something different. And I don't think I entirely approve of cancel culture. Do I approve of Russell Brand being deplatformed across so many different media? I don't think he's somebody I would want to switch on out of choice. And I don't think he's somebody that I would want to encourage others to watch or switch on out of choice. Have I answered the question there? I don't know. But the other question about the allegations against him. Indeed, my attitude about the platforms is made up of two events: the way he treated a small dog and the way he treated Georgina Baillie and her grandfather. Those two events alone make up my opinion of Russell Brand. Everything else is about a criminal allegation, and my own instinct on looking at the initial evidence is that there probably isn't enough, and it's a very complex scenario. There probably isn't enough to justify a criminal case, and a criminal conviction might be quite difficult to attain. Would it serve any purpose? I don't know. At the same time, it's quite clear to me that there are a number of people who are hurting, who are victims, whether they're victims of Russell Brand or whether they're victims of something else. It doesn't really matter. They are victims nevertheless, and they are hurting nevertheless, and our sympathy should be with them. And I think that's long overdue.